To say her language was not diplomatic would be an understatement of understatements. I can still remember the surprise in Jerry's face when Mo verbally let fly at him, and a strong voice. Harsh words were exchanged before calmness prevailed, and everyone got down to diplomacy. But it was an instructive moment for all of us, but especially Jerry. And just in case anyone had any doubt, it was clear that Mo Mullen was not a politician to be trifled with. She was able to hit it hard. I remember another day when she was just so frustrated, and this stage wasn't as well, was on chemotherapy, but was still putting in a full day, working hard, listening to the endless arguments, debate. She marched in. It was a meeting of the leaders, and to try and cut the meetings down, it was just the leaders of every party in Northern Ireland. You have a lot of leaders of parties, big, small, and indifferent. The only female in the room was the leader of the Women's Coalition. Thankfully, they agreed to have a woman leader of the Women's Coalition, which was a great achievement in Northern Ireland. But anyway, other than that, it was all men. And Mo came in, knew that she was going to live with a load of nonsense. Again, to put it politely, she pulled off the wig, dumped it on the table, kicked off one shoe right, other shoe left, plonked down in the chair and said, "Now what the hell you effing bastards have to say to me?" I always used to love the minute taker of these meetings. I always think when the rules will be read in about 25 years, what they will actually say. All these minute takers would probably say that the Secretary of State came in and was very annoyed, you know. But I can't tell you all the things that she would say because I'd be in trouble. But this year marks students the 60th anniversary of Mo's birth. She's dead 4 years, but she was only 56 years of age. And in preparing for this speech, I came to realise that it also marks the 200th anniversary of the birth of another great British statesman, William Gladstone. And Gladstone, on first being elected Prime Minister, said that his great political objective was to pacify Ireland. The highest compliment that I can pay Mo at this particular debate, and of course Tony Blair, is to say that their inspired work was central to finally achieving Gladstone's great objective. I don't think there's many conflicts around the world, there are some, but not many, that so many people put so much effort in. But it is true to say what William Gladstone started off, took to the period of Mo Mullen to bring to completion. And if it was not for the way that she went about that, I do not believe I would be here tonight saying that. And what we set out to do, when I say we, I just don't mean Tony, Mo and I mean everyone who joined with us along the difficult journey. John Hume, David Trimble, who both won Nobel Peace Prizes, the late David Irvine, Martin McGuinness and so many others, was to find a common thread which binds us all together. And in the end, we found it, and we, the Irish and British people, have begun to wave a new history, which is a history which is built on simpler principles of cooperation and understanding, fraternity, and a willingness to celebrate the diversity of the islands and of these islands. The Good Friday Agreement, President, which we were so proud to negotiate, says it best, and I want to just give one quote from it, that the tragedies of the past have left a deep and profoundly regrettable legacy of suffering. We must never forget those who have died or been injured, but we can best honour them through a fresh start in which we firmly dedicate ourselves to the achievement of reconciliation, tolerance and mutual trust, and the protection and vindication of the human rights of all. That is what the Good Friday Agreement was about. It was a complex agreement, but that was the principle. And peace in Ireland, President, in our generation, is our proudest achievement. And the real winners are the people, north and south, who can now live together in harmony. I watch with great sadness every day the Sky and BBC World and other reports of the tragedies in Afghanistan and other tragedies in the world, and watch the number of lives lost. And this remembrance weekend, obviously I add my sympathy present to all of those who've lost their lives, and my sympathies to all of those families, and because it is something that we in Northern Ireland learned to live with. And I watched the debate about the conflicts and now yesterday 200 people being killed. But it does make me remember too that there were multiples of 200 British soldiers killed in Northern Ireland as part of the 3,500 people that died in the Troubles. And sometimes it amazes me how people can forget and move on. I think of all of those families of the 3,500, but particularly here tonight to say of the British soldiers who died in Northern Ireland, and to say that that was a conflict when it hit 200 that they were wasting their time with or couldn't bring an end, or their contribution wasn't important to it with everybody else. It was just not true. Sometimes to bring peace to future generations and to millions of people does take time and does take hardship, and I do think people need to have a sense of perspective about these things. But 3,500 people died in Northern Ireland. Northern Ireland is a very small place. It was in the typical American city, because I used to make this speech in America during the Troubles. It would have been equivalent to somewhere between 40 and 50,000 people would have died in the Troubles in Northern Ireland. And peace was hard won, and it took much persevering through the bad old days of the Troubles, and there were some horrific days of carnage. Mo Mullen and I witnessed at first hand the grief and devastation that the Omagh bombing inflicted on many families. Better part of 40 people, including a pregnant woman, were blown to pieces on that day. I remember walking those streets with Mo Emma. I remember going to the casualty wards. I remember going to the morgues and seeing the devastation. And I remember, hardest of all, going to the houses of the innocent peoples whose children were going to, on a summer trip, were going to get some of their school books at the start of term in August 15, 310 in Omagh, that were blown apart. And I think violence in Northern Ireland was horrific, and we cannot forget that, and again, always to say from wherever side that it came. But Mo never shivered at any of that, saw the bigger picture, and the bigger picture was to stay at it and to keep working. Edmund Burke, President, the great 18th century Irish statesman, once famously said, for evil to triumph, it's enough for good men to do nothing. Thankfully, in our time, good people from all communities did not do nothing. The people refused to be deflected from the noble goal of peace through, though faced with enormous challenges and a whole legacy of bitter history. Mo Mullen was central to this. She understood that for peace to flourish, dialogue is necessary. She also understood that it needs to be seen to be even-handed. Her style was of help. Mo was always open. She was engaging, and she was a people's person. She knew that peace could not be made by not talking to people or by allowing vacuums to emerge. I should say, I'm not drawing any analogy with anything, every time there was a political vacuum in Northern Ireland, every time politicians, and I'm not saying they were wrong, they were doing what they thought was right at the time, but every time there was a vacuum, every time there was not an effort to talk, more people died. Every time the talks broke down, you can be sure that the first and second and third items of the news was the latest atrocity. The latest pastor or priest preaching about what they said at the funeral mass this morning, the latest bomb that had gone off, and the latest innocent person that had been gunned down in cold blood. And as happened in Northern Ireland, the tit for tat killing, and when you couldn't get an easy target, you went out looking for a couple like yourselves, fella and girl leaving university campuses or leaving a bar in the north, and you shot the fella in front of the girl because that was an easy target, and you knew who was a Catholic or a Protestant because we're going back into one of the areas, and it was assumed that that's where you were. And that's the way life went on. And if you don't talk, and if you don't deal, and if you don't negotiate, like Mo did, that is the outcome in my view. She made a huge impact on ordinary people, both in Northern Ireland and in the Republic of Ireland. People had never seen anyone quite like her as Secretary of State's job.